Becoming top stars.
Lights, camera, action.
Becoming big.
Welcome to Meet the Agent Podcast, Series 3. I'm Wendy Claire from Juge Interiors and internationalluxelistings.com. I'm so excited that today we are going to Dubai. We're taking you straight to Dubai to meet an Australian in Dubai, Ahmed Khan, who's going to tell us everything that we need to know about this mysterious country that's just taking the whole attention of the real estate world. So welcome, Ahmed. So glad you could join us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And the opportunity, I'm really excited about this. So,
Yeah, so tell us what is it like today in Dubai? What's the weather? What's the feeling? Danny, one of our guests and also our followers in the audience, had the best question ever. She just said, I'm so excited to know what's it like. And that's just
Yep.
a perfect way to begin.
Okay, let's kick it off with Danny's question. So, I mean, look, it's opposite season, so we're just about to start summer over here. It does get warm. We're in the Middle East. The temperatures will reach kind of 40 plus in the peak of summer,
40?
but yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But I would say like it's very different to the Australian summer, right?
What
Over
is that
here,
like in Fahrenheit? Do you
yeah.
know? Do you know what that is for
Well,
our internationals? Oh, okay, I'll
sorry,
add that
I would.
in. That's okay.
Sure,
Go
sure.
on.
So the Aussie summer, which I was used to, it was like I would say more harsh. It would burn your skin. Like even someone with a slightly darker complexion, I would still get burnt. And over here, it's very different. Like you will get a tan. You won't necessarily get burnt, but it's just constantly warm, even in the evenings and stuff. So you don't get that relief of an evening time. But there's still so much to do in summer over here. There's still a lot of people that will visit here in summer, especially from Europe, surprisingly.
Really?
Europe obviously gets busy during the summer. A lot of tourists head there, and a lot of the Europeans that want to get away from those kind of high traffic intakes, they'll end up here and relax and live that Dubai lifestyle.
So is everyone rushing into the big inside malls? I remember being in Egypt and it was a bit of that feeling of people darting outside for a while to get to and from some gorgeous mosque, you know? Is that what it's like?
Yeah, you'll get an element of that for sure. So the fantastic part of this part of the world is everything's open almost 24/7. So
Really?
the malls will be open, let's say like 9 or 10 o'clock, a mall might open and you'll obviously have air conditioning and everything inside. So people will be there during the day, but you don't have to rush from work to to get to a mall because in Australia we're used to things closing at 5 o'clock and there's not much time to do anything of an evening. But over here the malls are open till 10, 11, 12 o'clock. If you want to go to the movies at 2 a.m., there's still cinema, there's showing sessions at those times as well. So it
Wow.
gives people the opportunity to still invest into the economy and keep the economy going because you've got night golf and you've got paddle sessions inside. And I mean, I play football quite a bit. I'm an avid football soccer fan, so I'm still playing soccer in the summers, but it's in an indoor pitch, like the whole full size pitch is indoors. So you've still got plenty to do in summer over here.
So you're playing football at what time? At 2 in the morning? No, surely not.
Yeah, so like the latest session we'll probably do is around 11 p.m.
Really?
and we finish around 12:30, like after midnight. And yeah, there's still things to do.
That's incredible. So that is a
Yeah.
little bit more like the European culture where everything starts late and ends late. Obviously, I'm meant to be in Europe because I'm a late night owl, as we were chatting
Yeah.
about. It's about 11 at night, and I'm just, this is perfect time for me. My caffeine is kicking into the right limit. So you're from Dubai originally, or your family? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. So heritage, my parents are both from Pakistan. Dad's been he migrated to Sydney about 55 years ago, about 56 years ago. So myself, my brothers, my sister, we're all born and raised in Sydney. Been there our whole lives. I was fortunate enough to play football for Pakistan's national team for a number of years. So I was traveling quite a bit playing
Wow.
football. And the back end of my last kind of international tournament, I ended up in Dubai. I met my wife here. She's also Pakistani, but born and raised here in the UAE. And yeah, we've been married just over 10 years. So I was a very frequent visitor to Dubai and meeting obviously her parents and spending time with them on during Christmas and New Year's and things like that. So yeah, like I was fortunate enough to be exposed to this market for the last 10 years. And
Wow.
it was definitely something that was intriguing me and kept me coming back.
How beautiful. So, for our international listeners, Christmas is what we call end of year, long summer break. Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean the religion. We're not very religious, really, on the whole, in Australia as a culture.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what's that been like now being in a very religiously dominated place? Great, because, there's more values, or a little bit stifling?
Yeah, I would say I think the misconception as well is that it is stifling or there's restrictions like in my opinion, and I say this to a lot of my friends and people that I meet, like if they've never been, definitely come and visit because it's an eye opener. I find the UAE to be the perfect blend of East and West. There's more expats living in Dubai than there are than the actual locals. So
Wow.
you'll see a lot of foreigners, whether they're from Europe or Russia, Asia, the Americas. Like there's every nationality is here. Dubai is definitely the most liberal state out of the UAE, which is what attracts so many of like the foreigners over here as well. So Christmas is still a big thing. My daughter's at school here, so they still celebrate Christmas at school because there's obviously people of other religious backgrounds. But then you also get, your religious holidays. For example, being in an Islamic country, you've got Eid, which follows Ramadan, and then you've obviously got the end of Hajj as well, which is another kind of public holiday for everyone as well here.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at your socials, and you had a social where you were saying, and we'll get to this topic about the market, but you were saying, I'm so used to seeing real estate agents that just disappear and then they end up in Bali somewhere. And when I first heard that, I thought, oh, they're being disappeared in Dubai. And I jolted because, of course, we don't really know much about the Middle East. And, actually, I've been to Dubai on a stopover, but that was 5 hours. But it made me
Yeah.
realize that in that time, I tried to see a bit of the city. I went on one of the
The buses.
the buses and the rail lines, and there was
Yeah.
a different carriage for women. And it struck me as, oh, okay. But then I realized, this is interesting. I actually feel safe, and I wish that maybe in Sydney there were different carriages for women. So it challenged my preconception of the place. And in the middle of this carriage was one, I guess, stubborn man
Yeah.
sitting in the carriage for women, with all the women, respectfully trying to avoid eye contact and keeping distance, which was like almost a Seinfeld episode for me. But it made me realize that we sometimes jump to conclusions about a place very quickly without really understanding it. So I guess when you were making that clip, being a man in Dubai, there's probably a little bit more freedom. And I remember seeing Marty Fox, who's a big name in Australia and has now started his business in Dubai, saying, everyone is so free there. And I thought, well, yeah, but you're a man, Marty, that's probably the way you're going to see it. But it's a different culture. So tell me a little bit more about those culture shocks and the misconceptions and what you were trying to get at then when you were talking about real estate agents disappearing and ending up in Bali.
Yeah.
A
I
lot
need
of
to
questions at once.
reword some of my clips. I need to reword that clip now. So in terms of the video, it was more kind of directed at look, I mean, the market is there's a lot of real estate agents in this market from all
Yeah.
over the globe. Now, a lot of them don't have kind of a genuine interest in property or real estate. They've just jumped into it because they've heard people can make a lot of money. Now,
Mm.
the when this Iran situation kind of started, because in Dubai, I would say probably about 85% of agencies here work on a commission only basis. So there's no salary attached to what you're doing. It's purely off your activity, your closures, and your deals that get settled is when you get paid your commission. So there's a lot of people that have never done real estate back home in their native country. And then when the Iran situation happened, a lot of them disappeared. So I like just because sorry, disappeared in terms of like they either went back home to their native country or they heard that Bali, for example, is also attracting a lot of investment. So they pivoted and moved into another market, trying to now sell like property in Bali, for example. So that was a very kind of interesting kind of experience to kind of see here firsthand because
Mm.
I mean my pipeline's quite good. Like I've got a lot of investors that are working with me and clients that are buying for the first time. And then out of nowhere, I started getting more and more inquiry because you asked a simple question, who have you worked with before? And they were like, oh, I was working with this agent and now that agent's not here. I'm like, oh, so where are they? And he's like, oh, well, he messaged me asking me about Bali or trying to sell me something in Portugal. And it was very interesting to see that. I wouldn't be surprised if those
Mm.
agents eventually do come back once there's obviously a lot more clarification on what's happening with
Right.
Iran. But
So
that was
I'm
what I was
hearing,
relating to.
yeah, so I'm hearing there's a bit of a kind of gold rush feel of people wanting to
Correct.
come and strike it big on beginner's luck in a sense, the kind of
Correct.
fly by night agents. And
Mm,
so it's become a crowded market because there's so much
yeah.
talk about it. But not everyone is going to have the experience and the diligence and the reputation that you need. A little
Correct.
bit like kind of the city end of Hollywood or something, it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Good to know.
And I
Okay, that
think
makes
that
sense
was
now.
yeah. So I think that's also like it comes down to I think the for the agencies where individuals are working, like that plays a big part in how successful you're going to be because again if there's no salary attached to you being in the office, you're I guess another as we would say in Australia, another bum in a seat, just occupying a space, making the calls, trying to get listings, trying to sell. And if you don't perform after 3 4 months, you're probably going to leave anyway because you need an income to survive here. So
Mm.
and in terms of like culture shock and those adjustments and things, I look a lot of it, and I would love for kind of it to be a true sentiment across the globe. I think a lot of it just comes down to respect. Like
Mm.
if you're open to operating and behaving in a way that respects the place that you're living and where you are, then that will help you kind of get by. In terms of, I guess, I mean, going to the beaches here in Dubai, you'll have obviously plenty of foreigners that are here. They can go to the beaches. They don't like, for example, I'll talk specifically for the ladies. Like they can go to a beach and wear a swimsuit and stuff, and it's not like prohibited for them or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
So it's and I mean, even from a working point of view, obviously being summers, like women aren't expected, especially if they're not of a specific faith that they have to be fully covered. And that I think that even goes for women in general. I mean, if they're the Muslim women that are here, if they don't feel that they want to wear a particular outfit, they don't have to. It's not forced upon them. The only time you would see a foreigner, man or woman, having to wear a specific outfit is when they walk into a mosque, for example,
Of
just out of
course, right.
respect to wear
Exactly.
it
Out of
at those
respect.
times.
And it would be
Yeah, and I
inappropriate
think
in Australia in a church in the same way to be,
yeah, correct.
dressed in a bikini, for example. You wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I've had a lot of friends from Australia that have asked, like, oh, if I visit Dubai, like, can my wife wear this and wear that? And yes, absolutely. Like, as long as she's not like walking out inappropriately, like in a bikini, and she's outside of a hotel or outside the apartment, for example. Like in the middle of a street, you wouldn't really expect people to do that in any city, really.
Yeah.
You dress appropriately for like the street. I mean, girls will wear skirts, girls will wear corporate attire that's suitable for the weather as well.
Right. Okay, that
Yeah, yeah,
sounds good. That
mm,
sounds better than I was thinking. And yeah,
yeah.
it's a little bit of understanding both sides, isn't it? I mean, I remember being in Egypt, and of course, being a tourist, I went to buy a belly dancing costume, as everyone does. And the man in the shop went, "You realize this is for dancing, right?" And I was like,
Yeah,
"Yes, I realized that." It's kind of
yeah,
misconceptions both ways.
yeah.
I'm not wearing that to the office.
Yeah,
Right.
I think for me, like the frequency of my travels as well, like back to Australia, like since I've been here, the one thing I've really got accustomed to here in Dubai is you don't see people yelling or carrying on in the streets, for example. So over here, it's seen to be offensive if you walk out in the streets and you start hurling abuse at someone, for
Hmm.
example, like that's because the way I see it is like people here feel like you're offending someone if you're yelling or hurling abuse or anything like that. So over here, like you'll walk in the streets, even if you're out, you head to the bars or a pub or you're out at one of the nightclubs and stuff, and then afterwards you won't really see people carrying on in the streets, even if they've drank a little bit too much. It's
Mm,
more it's more you'll see them calmly leave and they'll get into their taxis or whatever and head home. And yeah, like you won't really see people fighting in the streets or you know
right.
people doing anything stupid. But yeah,
Which
I'm
to
getting
me,
very used to that.
that sounds like a good thing. It's definitely a good
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, no,
A little bit more
absolutely
civil and controlled.
correct. Yeah, correct.
Excellent. Excellent. And what are the cultural differences when you're working as an agent? I mean, when it comes to the real estate market, is
Hmm.
there anything that comes to mind there?
Yeah, so I mean, English is still the predominantly what everyone speaks here in terms of doing business. Even the local Arabs, they'll speak English, some of them a little bit less, and it's a bit broken, things like that. But you can get by here just speaking
Mhm.
English. In terms of like culturally and religiously, like Friday in Islam is like the equivalent of church Sunday, for example. So Fridays here, there's like prayer time at around 1 a.m., 1 p.m. So you'll get a little bit of a quiet period. Some offices won't open until after prayer time, for example, the banks, whereas others might finish up after prayer time. So it's only really a half day.
Mhm.
In real estate, when it comes to working in this market, again, like it's just understanding who you're speaking to, you know, is it the right time to call them and things like that.
Right. Interesting.
So it's not uncommon for you to be speaking to someone at 9, 10 p.m. talking about properties and listing a property or selling a property because people are happy to do business at any time of the day here.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a big difference. Very
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
So, did you feel it's probably a little bit easier for you to have slipped into the culture, but your role now is very much kind of guiding people to help them transition into that culture and obviously into a very exciting investment market. I'm presuming that you're really dealing with clients that are wanting to invest in Dubai rather than move
Yeah.
there then. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And-
correct,
yeah.
correct.
And it's quite
So I mean,
go on.
yeah,
I was going to say
sorry.
it's quite pertinent actually that we're speaking tonight because it's budget night in Australia and
Yeah,
everyone has been on tenterhooks about the housing market and
capital
about
gains
interest
tax and
rates and about the
yeah,
taxation, capital gains, negative gearing, all of these
yeah,
things that are, to be honest, beyond my understanding as an interior designer. But it really made me think, I get it. If you are feeling a little bit trapped in your options in the Australian market, what you are offering is an ability for people to look at another market entirely
Yeah,
where
yeah,
it seems there's a lot of, growth potential. Is that right? You want to tell me a little bit
yeah,
about that?
yeah, for sure. So to your first question, like, did I slip in and did I just feel very comfortable? I think for me, the biggest thing was I didn't want to move here with the mindset that it's going to be easy. So I didn't take anything for granted. I just knew that if I'm here, I'm going to be completely invested and do the work that I would be doing whether I was in Sydney, right? Like, you still got to do the calls, still got to meet people and stay true to yourself, I think, as well, in how you want
Mm,
to operate. I think that's the best way to get a good feel for how you're going to perform in a market.
right.
I knew nothing was really going to be handed to me here. It was essentially moving from a market where I had a really strong network base and leaving that behind and coming to Dubai and starting from absolute zero. I felt like I was at my first day of kindergarten, and I
Wow.
had to make new friends and all that kind of stuff. But for me, the exciting thing was
That's
like
tough.
understanding how does it work, what is the advantage that people can take advantage of, and then I was fortunate enough to, I guess, within 6 months of being here in the market, I got poached by a business that wanted an Australian that was traveling to Australia and becoming that bridge for investors. It's, I'm sure for some of your listeners, like across the globe, there's more and more Dubai property roadshows happening on a weekend, and different agencies are hosting them on a weekend in a different city around the world. So I now do that for the Australian market where I am
Right.
here in Dubai. So I fly back into Australia twice a month. I'll do an event over a weekend, but then I'm regularly back, whether it's Perth or Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Gold Coast. It doesn't really matter. I missed Adelaide, but Adelaide as well. But yeah, the idea of me being here is to assist Australians to understand the market first, understand, like, or eliminate the hype from the reality,
Mm,
and then kind of go with a calculated decision, because I still have, my family still in Sydney, like my parents, my brothers. I moved obviously to Dubai with my wife and daughter, but my immediate family is there, and I still visit them frequently. I've still got invested, so I've still got investments in Australia as well. So this is never kind of a get rich quick scheme. It's still
mm,
people's biggest assets that they're investing into. So I
mm.
still bring that kind of, I guess, an Aussie mentality to how we're investing, but how can we implement it here, take ownership of it, understand the strategy, and then execute it with a level of comfort that people are willing to kind of move ahead with.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, it's true because, as you said, nothing ever gets handed to you if it's going to be substantial and important.
Mm,
Short-term gains and never as good as the long-term ones. So that seems a very grounded and responsible approach. Do you
yeah.
have
Yeah.
clients though really wanting that unicorn get rich quick investment and you're trying to say to them, slow down?
Those clients, I won't. I most likely won't meet them on these events in Australia. They'll most likely be here, and I've had a few clients that have, if we're talking Australian dollars, they've probably bought worth 10, 15 million Aussie dollars worth of property in one transaction. And it's just been an immediate, yep, that looks like a great investment. I just want to buy that. And it, for them, it's more of a purchase and forget kind of option. They'll buy it, let it sit there. They'll, whether it's a ready property, they'll get some rental income and they're happy to just leave it there.
Right.
Uh, but there's there's a lot of that here as well. I mean, if you look at the investors coming from Russia into this market, you know, there's some huge transactions from Europe at the moment as well that do, come across
Wow.
into this market. Yeah, yeah.
So can I ask, being a
Mhm.
blunt Australian type, what are the figures that we're talking here? I mean, I think we had a kind of pre-meet chat where you were sort of saying something to me like, no, there's no tax even in Dubai, which was just shattering my brain. I mean, what are the figures? What are the growth rates for all of the
Yeah.
excited accountants out there, which I'm not one? What are the kind of numbers being slung around?
So again, like if I split Dubai into certain segments, like waterfront property is always going to outperform an inland property. So waterfront properties, I mean, let's take the iconic Palm Jumeirah, right? The palm that was built initially when properties were being sold there. They were selling for about 3.5 million dirhams, and people thought, it's probably going to sink in 10 years and it won't be there anymore. But there was people that invested. Obviously, the palm is still there. It's one of the most iconic locations in Dubai, and it definitely attracts the ultra wealthy. Properties there, the cheapest property you're going to find there right now is about 50 million dirhams, and that's in a span of 10 years. The properties jumped from 3.5 million to 50. Now
Okay.
that's extraordinary growth
Right. Thank you so much for
in a
joining
market,
us,
and you've got
Lisa.
properties
It's been
much
just
kind
as
of
fantastic
more
as I expected.
um, like
And
in
thank you
value
everyone
in,
for
in
listening
dirhams, like
in.
they're
I'm
much more
Wendy Claire,
expensive as
and this
well. But
series
the
is
entry
proudly
point is probably
supported
about that.
by
It's
my
now
interior
the
design and home
palm now has
staging
become like
company, Shush
the
Interiors. Join us next
we were
week for
speaking
another
before
episode
last time,
of
and
Meet the
there's a
Agent
term used
podcast.
actually. It's almost like you've got that pin that I've got a property in the palm, and it becomes like a staple that in their investment portfolio. So
Right.
if we look at other locations, you're looking anywhere from, I guess, 20 to 50% capital appreciation in value. If we look at kind of Dubai as a whole, some areas might perform a little bit slower, but if you look at a 5 or 6 year period, what is to come in those areas, you'll probably pick up a lot more growth in that period after 6 years.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. In terms of like settlements and deals happening, you're, you know, I think there was last week, if I look at the numbers for last week, I was looking at them earlier. Last week, the off plan market did about 826 million in sales, which is a week's activity again in the start of a month. So there's definitely a lot of transactions still happening.
Mm.
And that's still, I guess, not the peak of what the market operates. They end up in billions, and like 4.2 billion, I think, was what had transacted just we're in May, we're in April. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Wow, it's hard to know where to begin yet with those numbers. It's certainly not what the
Yeah.
housing market in Sydney is looking like, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I look, I think it would be, in terms of like numbers, the numbers sound huge. The numbers, like, and in terms of even rental returns, like on average, a rental return in Sydney, for example, is about 3 to 3.5%. In Dubai, on average, as a whole market, you're looking at about 6.5, 7%. So it's still, there's still some really strong rental returns. In line with what you're asking about tax, I don't want to give any advice.
Yes,
I'm not
good
an
idea.
accountant, but yeah, like the way Dubai operates, there's no income tax on your salaries. There's no tax on your rental income that you're receiving for an investment property. And if you were to sell a property and you're making whatever profit you do, there's no capital gains tax either on that. So whatever profit you make goes to you as a property owner, and that attracts investors. It keeps their
Mm,
economy growing. It keeps it moving forward. It's a big reason why you've got a huge spread of the type of investor as well. You've got the ultra wealthy. You've got people that are seasoned investors that know exactly what type of investment they like, and you've even got your entry level investor now as well that you know is looking to explore into an international market.
So you were telling me as well, and we used this quote on the Insta carousel because I thought it very intriguing, that always say first, though, to clients that you ask, are you stable first in your
Mm,
investments in the Australian market before you
yeah.
invest in Dubai?
In terms of what we've discussed before, let me explain kind of why that's kind of my ethos of how I operate. So I spent 16 years working in finance before I moved into real estate. So working with the big banks, and I was always exposed to property. Like my family had, my dad had done a lot of investments in Australia before, and from a young age I was exposed to that. Now, from my banking experience, I got a real a kind of insight into how difficult it was for Australians to purchase property.
Mm,
I people would be saving up for a lifetime, and that's the Australian dream, and I'm sure it's the dream for a lot of people across the globe, is to get into the market, own an asset, and then kind of as my time in finance progressed, like it was just seemed like it was something that was getting further and more difficult, and for the average Australian. Now that's why when I meet with Australians and I see them, I mean, I think it's important. I think you've got to be honest with yourself, and you, if I can help someone to enter the property market, I would love nothing more to be able to do that for them. But if again, like we spoke about it briefly, like I'm helping more. I'm not necessarily encouraging every Australian to move to the UAE. This is about an investment opportunity for them to take advantage of, and that's why I always come back to that core value and core question, like, are they established? Have they entered the market in Australia and settled themselves there before they kind of jump into an international market, whether it's here, whether it's, another market. But I mean, I would hate nothing more for someone to lose money in a foreign market that they've saved for such a long time, because it's a slippery slope of that get rich quick kind of idea that we spoke about
mm,
briefly before. This is, again, people's biggest assets. Where it is a foreign market, there's things to take advantage of in the UAE of how they operate and how safe it is in terms of particular types of investments. But I just feel like it's the right thing to do by people to make them
yeah.
like have a strong base in Australia,
And
something that they can always fall back on.
take care of your fundamental needs first before you take
Correct.
anything that's different or foreign or risky is
Correct.
sensible, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
Makes sense. Do you
Yeah.
think that the Dubai market is a little bit more risky than say the Australian market?
So I, it's probably hard for me to say. I personally, because I'm in the market, I don't see it to be as risky.
Mm,
There's smart investments to do, but then there are definitely more risky investments to kind of toy with as well. I'll give you a
yeah,
quick
that's true.
snapshot of how
Mm,
this market works, because it's different to the Australian market, and I
mhm,
can't speak for any of the other international markets. I'm not exposed to them, but
mm,
when we're buying property in Australia and it's an off plan, we're buying directly from a developer. We pay 10% down to hold a unit, and then we're waiting for that developer to complete a project, whether they hand it over on time or they delay it or they go bankrupt and liquidate and we don't see them and we lose money. There's all those kind of elements that kind of come into play. Now in Dubai, they've experienced a global financial crisis like everyone else did. And from that experience, there was a lot of investment lost. People did lose their money. There wasn't a proper structure in place then. So the government here evolved how investors operate, and it protects the investor a little bit more. So let's say I'm a developer and I show that this is a project I'm going to build. I take that to the Dubai Land Department. It's a government organization. It's like your governing council, like you would
mm,
deal with your local councils in Australia. So the governing council is Dubai Land Department. As a developer, I take my plans there. I get those plans approved. And then me as a developer, I would have to show that I'm financially liquid to complete that project without relying on any sales from the market,
Right.
right? So once once that's been kind of green ticked and I've passed that, the Dubai Land Department here in Dubai sets up an escrow account, so trust accounts for that particular project. Now I can go to market and sell my units or villas or whatever I'm selling, but all investors that are buying into it pay into escrow, not to me as a developer.
Right.
And the
Interesting.
developers only getting access to funds once they complete the project, right? So for me as a developer, the motivation becomes I need to start and complete the project in line with all the checks and balances required by the Dubai Land Department in
Mm,
order to get access to funds and
hmm.
get paid. So again, like at any stage, like there's no motivation over here for a developer to go, okay, well, I've got the money, I'm disappearing, because all money sits in escrow for them, so they can't even touch it. That's why the developments here, they start and finish on time in most cases, because that's the way the system's been set up. So I would say, yeah, like it's a safer market if you're looking to invest and buy an investment property, and it depends on your strategy. Do you want to sell it on completion and pocket some profit and reinvest or whatever it is, or you could even hold it and have an Airbnb or a long-term rental option as well, or potentially a holiday home. So yeah, like I feel like it's a safe investment as long as you're
Mm.
buying in the right area with the right developer who has a proof of concept and has delivered in this market before. There's
Right.
over 22,500 developers in Dubai. So
Amazing.
you've got to pick the right one.
Right. So there's some opportunities there that are perhaps going to be safer than what we know back in Australia. But you've got to be selective and look for those safer opportunities. That makes
Yeah,
sense. That's a sensible approach. That's
yeah,
great. I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Sounds good. So tell us what else we need to know about.
In terms of, we spoke briefly on, in terms of like, how does Dubai compare to Sydney, to London, to New York, and all those kind of markets as well. So I think
Mm.
for like that's a very common question I get. Obviously, tax is one component why people do like the Dubai market. When we look at London and New York, they obviously are like your capital preservation type markets. You hold into a stable market, and your asset will relatively stay, strong in terms of returns. More and more, I guess what I'm seeing from the Australian market is that the affordability is getting a lot harder for people.
So
And
hard here. Yeah.
the barrier to entry in terms of price point is just getting higher. I mean, born and raised in Sydney, we always saw Sydney or Melbourne as those kind of big, iconic, more expensive kind of cities. And, this year I've been to Perth 5 times this year, and more people from Perth are telling me how expensive property is there. And
Right.
that's why, because I would always ask, like, what's the motivation for your investment in Dubai? And they're like, well, we're being outpriced by everyone from the East Coast buying in Perth, and we just can't afford it here anymore. So there's also those transitions that take place. So it's definitely been, the main attraction for Dubai has been that it's still a growth market. It's 50 years old. They've got a 2040 plan for Dubai, which is, it has a couple of huge milestones within it, which will change the landscape of Dubai completely. The population of Dubai in December last year was 4 million, and their goal by 2040 is to hit 8 million. They've also got the world's largest airport that they're building, which will be close to 400 terminals. They've got the flying taxis that should be starting this year sometime. And they want Dubai to be 400% greener in terms of the city, not just, I guess, green energy. It's more, they want more greenery around. So a lot of the new developments, you know, have an element of greenery within them. Whether it's a villa community, you'll see maybe 60% of the land is what will be constructed on. The rest of it has to have greenery and trees and parkland and all those kind of things as well. So no more concrete jungle. There'll definitely be greenery around.
Yeah, that's fantastic because yeah, it is a quite overwhelming city. I mean, when you
Yeah.
first go there, it's just striking and it is very
Mm.
luxurious and the standards of luxury and wealth do seem to be on another level. But now you mention it, yeah, the greenery and these elements of nature are so important too.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
very interesting. All right, we can tick that
Yeah.
question. I'll pretend I'm asking you. I'll cut it in. So, how is it
Yeah.
different there in Dubai from, say, other markets? What else do we have to cover there, Ahmed? We covered Danny's
You
question.
touched on
Yeah.
luxury.
Oh, yeah. So
Did you
let me
want?
ask you: is there a different feeling or idea of what luxury is in the UAE or specifically Dubai?
Yeah, I think the definition of luxury changes every month over here. So there's
I didn't
always
expect
something
that.
new. Yeah, it's so
Are we
interesting because
talking
it's
like
such a
Japanese toilets that do do your coffee?
there.
I mean,
I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening somewhere. There's elements of obviously the fashion side and the cars and everything like that. But I just like even if we look at your basic investment kind of here in Dubai, if it's a studio or a one bed, the new developments here just offer you so much more than what you would get from an apartment building in Australia at the moment. The and this all ties into that 2040 plan that they want these buildings to have greenery or they want them to offer more than just the concrete slab that they're built on. So I mean the new developments here, I mean, for me this is still luxury because I need to resonate with the Australian client that's looking at the investment because here you won't just have an apartment building with a pool and a gym. It'll also have a salon. It'll have a daycare center. It'll have a cinema room. It'll have, your sauna, and the list goes on. Like there's a new development that just
why
launched
do
not
you
long
need a
ago. That
sauna if it's 40 degrees?
yeah, so some people just want that after a training session or something, but there's
But that's true. Luxury
there's
is always a question of why do you need it? I mean, how many perfumes do you need? It's not about need, right? When it's luxury.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes, you're
So I mean, because like going to get gym membership, for example, might be expensive, and if you want to do yoga classes, it's expensive. So now all these facilities are available within an apartment, and even like your
convenience.
strata fees.
Hmm.
Correct. Yeah, I would say Dubai is built on convenience. Like it's on another level. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, I mean, the idea of having a pool is it's so mandatory for really
Mm,
any luxury market around the world now, isn't it? It's like having a bathroom. You
yeah.
have to have a pool. It's a given.
Correct.
You have to have air
Correct.
conditioning in a car, in a house. So yeah, but wellness is definitely on the rise around the world. And
Yeah.
I'm hearing from what you're talking about that clearly it's on the agenda there in Dubai.
Definitely. Yeah.
Mm,
There's.
which
I
is
mean,
great.
you've got so many expats here. There's a lot of people from England that are here and they just love the outdoors. And you've got your run clubs and you've got golf is a huge sport here.
Okay. Yeah.
Paddle. Have you heard of paddle as well?
Paddle? It sounds like paddle boarding to me.
Okay. So paddle is like it's a mix between tennis and like squash almost.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's smaller courts and very European sport that's caught on like hot fire, like or hot cakes here. So it's there's a lot of people into that. And yeah, the outdoor activities, people are really getting to their cycling and just that's all available to people a lot more
Right.
frequently now.
So I'm hearing and imagining you've got really any sport you could want, except maybe skiing. Or do they have fake snow there even in the mountains?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. So they've got a ski slope inside one of the malls here. So in the Mall of Emirates, you've got a ski slope there. So it's an indoor ski slope. So they do have snow.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is really remarkable. I mean, why are you coming back to Australia? Remind me again.
So again, like I still see Australia to be home.
Yeah.
I'm here, like obviously, like I think there is definitely a lot of opportunity. It's allowed me to kind of get out of my comfort zone, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I think in terms of if I can be the bridge to help Australian investors get ahead and grow and make some real wealth, I'm all for it. I don't really have plans to immediately return to Australia permanently. Like I want to kind of see how this market evolves as well.
Mm.
And yeah, like I think there's a lot of opportunity here to enjoy, and I love seeing the city like reshaping itself.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. And if it's
Mm.
working and you're enjoying it and you're
Yep.
not only surviving but flourishing, why not? That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
has it changed you, do you think, as a person in any way?
I think it's very easy for people to get lost here in the city. I do know a few people that ventured to Australia from Australia to buy, and it wasn't their fit. And I mean, you could spend your life savings here within a couple of days very easily. But I look, I'm a pretty grounded individual. I like to kind of live the simple life. I yes, there's a lot of conveniences and luxuries to enjoy here. You know, my main priority is to take care of my family and make sure that they're all happy, and we're investing and we're growing our own kind of family and things like that here. So I don't think I've changed. I think I'm at a point in my life where I am who I am and I enjoy what I do, and yeah, like that's just kind of how I approach life, really.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think that's fantastic because it's a wonderful thing about Australians that we're known to be, and I think genuinely are quite down to earth, quite grounded
Yeah,
people. And you're able to offer that plus a little bit of that, glitz and glamour and go
yeah,
beyond the struggle that we've always sort of seemed to identify with and reach to a different reality. That's
yeah,
fantastic. So
yeah.
I realized I have to ask you too our interesting fun question, not to be taken too seriously, but it's
Sure.
enlightening usually. What kind of music or preferably a music star or song
Yeah.
most fits Ahmed Khan, most resembles
Mhm.
you, your vibe, your approach, your energy, who you present to the
Yeah.
world as?
So it's a good question. So I grew up, so I'm an 83 baby, right? So 1983 is when I was born. And I, growing up in that kind of time, a lot of the people around me were, you know, MJ was a big thing for a lot of
Yeah.
people. So I think it's hard to not say, you know, when I think of music, it- like such an icon, and it doesn't matter where you go in the world. If that beat starts, everyone knows,
Yeah.
oh, that's MJ. So I think like for me,
There's a
people
defining
probably
sound of
correct.
your youth, really, your era. Yeah.
Yeah. So for
Fantastic.
me, I think there's two parts to this question. If you don't mind me kind of giving you both parts, I was a big MJ fan. So I mean, if you were to say, hey, like put on a song, like I would say, look, Billie Jean would,
Oh, I love that
kind
song.
of be so fitting.
That's my
Um,
favorite MJ track you just mentioned.
yeah.
Okay, go on.
It's
Yeah.
so iconic. Yeah,
Isn't
it's
it?
so iconic. And I think for me, like I always, you know, enjoyed the dance floor a little bit. So that was just for me, like NJ was a big part of kind of me growing up.
I'm going to make
And
you
then if I
die
kind
when
of
I tell you I actually was about 2 meters from him.
Oh,
in
wow.
Palm Beach. I got to dance in front of him, literally at a gala event at a film festival. One of my films was at.
That's awesome.
It was a really pitch me moment.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
That's
though.
like, I think for, especially when you meet those celebrities, it is just such a surreal moment
Yeah,
to kind
he
of
had
enjoy.
one glove on and all. I mean,
Okay,
stunning.
nice.
Anyway, go on. And what's the other song or track?
So yeah, I think so. For me, it was always what was my motivator in terms of getting me in the zone, and I'll bring it back to like football. So soccer for me, whenever I had my headphones in before a big game and before like just kind of getting me into that zone it's a song by Fort Minor. It's called Remember the Name, and that was all kind of. I think the lyrics kind of, they resonated quite a bit, and it just kind of got me focused. So that kind of plays rent-free in my head quite a bit. Yeah.
Excellent. So it's like a mantra or a kind of ethos for you. That's powerful.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, absolutely. I mean, we're never one thing, are we, or one song? So that's perfect.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I get the sense that hasn't changed. I mean, you're still both of those things. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, it's been so good to chat. Before we wrap up, I always like to ask, is there anything else you want to tell us or add, or that, I've forgotten to venture into? Because sometimes it's those little things that people feel are niggling that they really want to say to the world that are the most interesting or intriguing.
The only thing I'll say is, don't be afraid of having a conversation. Always be ready to learn something new. I mean, if we knew everything, we would be the one that would be teaching people as well. But you've got to, one thing that's kind of brought me to a very quick realization here in Dubai is that you never know who you're standing next to. They could be a first-time investor or a multi-billionaire, and one interaction can change your life. So there's power in a genuine conversation. And again, if anyone from your listener group ever wanted to reach out and have a chat and ask any questions, I'm more than happy to have that conversation.
Wonderful.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have a chat.
It's just meant to be.
We're becoming top stars.
It's so
Coming up stars.
thrilling and wonderful and enlightening to have you explain Dubai and have you launch our new series. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening in. I'm Wendy Claire. Join us next week for another episode of Meet the Agent Podcast.